Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. Kate sat in a fancy new cafe and chatted with her friend Camille. So how is your faithful knight? You're still together. Don't you get tired of messing around with him? He's a pauper. To think he's just a delivery boy. Kate was a little offended. Camille, stop it. Don't talk about Mike like that. We love each other, and he's a wonderful man. And money isn't even the most important thing in life. The girlfriend snickered. That's what the daughter of rich people says to me. Is that easy for you to say? You don't need anything and can afford anything. And here, if you lived as I do from paycheck to paycheck so long ago, would have sent his fiancée to hell. What do you see in him? Well, it's your business. I will not interfere. The girls sat for a while, and Camille ran off to another boyfriend for a date. And Kate sat for a long time, looking out the window, humming her coffee, and remembering her childhood. Kate's parents were rich people, had a chain of gas stations and shops in the neighborhood. Mom had been unable to get pregnant for a very long time, and by the time she was 40, she had given up hope. But then a miracle happened. God sent them a child after all. Of course, father and mother couldn't wait. They shook on her and gave her only the best, but at the same time taught her important truths. Not to be greedy to share with friends, to help others, and always remember that the human soul is important. After all, her parents were not born rich and started from the very bottom, so they knew the price of everything. Therefore, Kate, despite the fact that she lived in luxury, still grew up a kind, sympathetic girl, did not give up, went to normal school, like everyone else. Then she went to university on a common basis and was friends with ordinary guys. Kate considered her childhood years the happiest and most carefree. And then difficult times began. First, her mother died. She had always had heart problems, and they only got worse after she gave birth late in life. Trying not to frighten her husband and daughter, the woman often melted and concealed severe heart pains. And one day she collapsed while sitting in a chair and closed her eyes forever. For Kate, it was a terrible, unspeakable grief. She cried and longed for her mommy. Her father, too, was all stressed out with grief. All at once he grew old. He was away at work all day and night. And 6 months later, he began to get sick, too. Long trips to doctors and endless examinations gave a disappointing diagnosis. Kate begged him to get treatment, to undergo chemotherapy, to fight for life. But he flatly refused. Their conversation was long, and her daughter remembered it for the rest of her life. Daddy held her hands and quietly said, "Kate, my daughter, listen to what I'm going to tell you. I am terminally ill. Stage 4. The doctors don't give me more than 6 months. You heard it yourself. And I have a choice between spending that time writhing in pain in a clinic or spending it with you and my family and the job I love. Which do you think I'll choose? You're my only hope. I want you, while I'm still alive, to be involved in the workflow and continue the work after I'm gone. Keep it alive. It's my mother and I's life's work. We've put so much work and time into it. So let's start tomorrow. I'll teach you everything I know. It just seems so scary. In fact, if you know how to steer the ship properly, it's not afraid of any storm." From that day until the last minute of his life, Kate was practically never parted from her daddy. He helped her learn the basics of business, and on weekends they took long walks in the park. If he was not feeling well at all, they would just sit by the fireplace and talk until the late hour. Both were in a hurry to forget themselves together, knowing that soon fate would part them forever. Daddy passed away quietly, without anguish, as he was taking the strongest of painkillers. Kate wept bitterly and could not accept such injustice. So the girl at 25 remained a rich heiress and a round orphan. In order not to lose her mind, Kate took up her work with great zeal. True, few people took the young girl seriously. Yes, and it was very difficult for her in such a short time to comprehend all the subtleties of running such a large business and learn how to manage it competently. Every day she was bombarded with a pile of problems, reports, signing documents, planning meetings, and making deals. Everything had to be taken care of. Nothing had to be missed. Decisions had to be made instantly and correctly. It was during this period of her life that Kate met Mike. It was ridiculously banal. The guy worked as a courier and one day brought Kate to work with a pizza and a set lunch on her order. A casual conversation ensued word for word. Their gazes met, and at that moment there was some kind of magic chemistry. They felt an unexplainable ecstasy and goosebumps. Mike timidly asked Kate for the phone and asked her out. The guy was very nervous because he was from an ordinary, even, one might say, poor family, and he was well aware of the beautiful eyes, the girl he liked so much, a bird of very high flight. Mike did not know what to surprise Kate with. He had no money for expensive restaurants, so he took the girl for a walk to the river outside the city. He knew from his childhood very beautiful places. Are you afraid to miss it? Fortunately, Kate was delighted, took lots of pictures of the scenery, and rejoiced like a child. My goodness, what a beauty. Just look at how purple the sunset is. Probably will be a strong wind tomorrow. And how the water is shimmering. Look how the fish are splashing. Evening beak. You know, Mike, I haven't been outdoors in so long. My parents leaving, and the enormous amount of work has been so overwhelming that I've already forgotten what it's like to just go for a walk. Thank you for a wonderful evening. I really enjoyed it. Now it's my turn to surprise you. Next weekend, we're going to an exhibition by the famous avant-garde artist. I've wanted to see his work for a long time. Mike led the girl home and kissed her shyly on the cheek. Then he said quietly, "And you're rich, and I'm a pauper by your standards. Can we be together? I can't give you everything you are used to." Kate smiled. "My father taught me since childhood that you should see a person's soul first of all, and not measure everyone only by money. I see, Mike, that you are a good man, and I like you a lot too. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, and then we'll see." That's how the couple got together. They spent a lot of time talking. The guy talked about his childhood. As long as I remember, we lived very poor. My mother worked in the kitchen all her life with the school canteen, and my father was a construction worker. My parents didn't get much. The only thing my mother sometimes brought was groceries from work. I was an only child in the family, but all the time I had the feeling that I was superfluous and unnecessary, and I am not loved. My mother never loved me unnecessarily. My father was always muttering and was always displeased with something. They didn't seem to hurt me, but they didn't show me as much love as I saw it in my friends' families. This always upset me a lot. I tried to prove to my parents that I was worthy of their love. My grades were excellent. I was number 1 in running in school. I started working part-time early. I even quietly loaded wagons, even though I was still a minor. I didn't drag away money. I only gave it to my parents and left a little for pocket money and clothes. Now I went to university by correspondence. I also work as a courier. Pays well. And I don't look like my parents at all. They're both short and blonde. I'm 6 feet tall and have hair. How does he look? Black. Kate also shared her memories with her fiancé. I, on the other hand, look just like my dad. I only got my hair from my mom. My parents didn't just love me, they adored me. Sometimes I am a fool, not even realizing how important it is. Only now, when I was left without my parents, I realized how much love they gave me, warmth and affection, and how much I miss them now. Now I'm mastering my father's business, but so far it's not going well. I'm having a hard time with it all. Kate was so good and easy with Mike, and their relationship was getting closer and warmer. Despite the difference in social standing, and in an instant everything changed. Kate was just on her way home from work when she got a call from the hospital. "Good afternoon. You're Kate. Michael gave us your phone number before he was taken away for surgery." Kate went pale and braked sharply on the curb. She felt sick to her stomach. "Jesus, Mike, what's wrong with him? What kind of surgery?" The pretty girl calmly answered the young man right in the middle of the street was attacked. A fight ensued and one of the attackers wounded Michael in the leg. Witnesses called an ambulance and the police, and the guy was taken to the regional hospital. It was very deep early on. We had to do an emergency surgery, but don't worry, the arteries are not nicked. He will live. I will give you the number of the room and the ward. Kate, I had to rush to the hospital. She was terribly worried about Mike, about who had attacked him and why. Everything was still unclear. When they let her in to see her beloved, he was still unconscious after the anesthesia. Mike was tossing and turning on the bed, shouting out strange combinations of numbers. Like a memorized cheat sheet, Mike mumbled these numbers without stopping. Many more times Kate was taken aback, and out of interest she even wrote them all down on a piece of paper. What were these numbers? The phone number is too long. The card number was also very strange. 2 hours later, the guy finally came to his senses, and seeing his fiancée was very happy. Hi, Kate. Are you here? You came to see me after all. Thank you. I am very glad. The girl smiled. She kissed Mike. How are you? Does your leg hurt a lot? It's already tolerable. Thanks to passersby and doctors. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened. My God, what happened, my love? Tell me. I still don't understand it. Who attacked you? Do you know them? Mike shrugged. That's the thing. I don't know. The main thing was I had a bag with the orders in it. They didn't touch it. Doesn't that sound like a hoodlum to you? The first thing they'd do is steal the stuff. But these guys came out of nowhere. 2 of them in masks and hoods. I didn't even know what they were after. They didn't try to beat me up first. They tried to grab me and push me into the cars. But I grew up on the street. Can I fight? Not bad either. I started to fight back. I shouted at them, "What do you want? Leave me alone." And they tell me we need you to remember or forget everything. What does that mean? I never understood. I think they got me mixed up with someone else. Probably someone else. I swear to you. I have no debts. I don't seem to have any enemies. And the job itself, you know, it's not a criminal job. No one's killed for a pizza yet. Brothers frowned even more. When you were delirious after the anesthesia, you kept repeating those numbers. And clearly and without mistakes. What are those combinations? The boy rounded his eyes and shook his head. I do not know. This is the first time I've heard you say that. Maybe I dreamed something I don't remember. Kate shook her head. It's all very strange. Beloved, I'm just worried. It doesn't seem that these numbers you repeated and the attack have something to do with it. Look, let's see a therapist. Maybe he can help you remember things. I'm so curious. What's going on here? Mike agreed. Maybe you're right. Except there's a fee. I don't have a lot of money right now. You're on sick leave now, too. But I swear to you, I got nothing to hide. I never lied to you. Don't even think that. Kate shifted the conversation to another topic and started asking her fiancé about his health. I decided that this was really not the best time to interrogate, and we had other things to think about. She visited the boy in the hospital every day, brought him homemade food and fruit. And she wondered why Mike's parents didn't visit him. Only once her father popped up for a second and asked what yes, how, and then left, as if he really wasn't his own girl who had been bothered by those numbers. And a month later went with Mike to see a specialist. The guy was visibly nervous. What if I remembered something awful? Maybe I was a criminal or had done something bad to someone. It was kind of scary, to be honest. The doctor calmed the guy down. I'm going to ask you some questions in a state of deep hypnosis, and you answer if you see something scary and want to stop the experiments instead of eyes. Except it doesn't look like his father is a tall, mustachioed, blue-eyed man who smells like tobacco. He hugs him tenderly and speaks in his son's ear. Here's the thing. I have to go away for a long time for work. And you have to learn this. Like a poem by heart. Repeat after me, my little faith. and now the number's 418. And they repeated the combination of those numbers together for a long time. And his father praised him that his son was good and had memorized everything quickly. And then suddenly, as in a movie in front of my eyes. Next frame. Mike is crying, sobbing, and screaming, "Daddy, don't go. Don't leave me. You will come back. Soon, really." He runs down the asphalt path between driveways, trying to catch up with Daddy. Then he falls and hurts his knee, and is immediately picked up in his arms by a woman's arms. Michael didn't realize that he was saying all this out loud, and that he wasn't crying in his own memories either. She, Kate, was frightened of his condition, and showed the doctor a sign that enough is enough. Let him stop this experiment. It was impossible to watch the boy beating hysterically and calling for his father. When Mike woke up, he didn't immediately realize where he was. He wiped away his tears and twisted his head. His heart was pounding frantically. His pulse was racing. The man I called my father in my memories was a different man. He's tall and clean and drafty, like me now and with a mustache. It turns out I grew up in someone else's family. But how did it happen? My head is spinning. The specialist added, "I think all these questions should be asked to your parents who raised you. They obviously know the answers. I mean, how did you end up in their family? Right? You can, of course, do a couple more sessions and remember everything in more detail. But you were a young child, and now you remember the highlights. There may not be any others." The couple thanked the doctor and went home. Mike couldn't recover from the experience all the way. "You know, Kate, I distinctly remembered that feeling of immense love and trust in that very man. And I also remembered his smell, smelling always of tobacco and strong male perfume. I had never felt anything quite like that about my parents. I swear, but what happened? Why did I completely forget all this? Tomorrow we will go to my parents. I want and have the right to know the truth about my birth. Do you have any idea what's going on in my heart? I'm sure now that my father is not my father. There was always a chill between us. And my mother wasn't very affectionate either. There's a reason for all this." Kate was excited too. "You know, I'd also noticed that when your father came to the hospital, he was kind of dry with you, like a stranger. Something's not right. I can smell it on you. And then there's that word you said before the number combination. There's only a bank in our town by that name. Those numbers must be a code or an account number. I have an old friend of my father's who works there, and we can find out tomorrow. Now, come on, honey, let's take a break. Let's watch comedy, like we always do with peanuts in our arms." The guy pulled his fiancée close to him and kissed her hotly. "All right, Kate, how much I love you. You alone, you understand me, no one else. You and I are two halves, I am sure." The next morning, Kate put all her business aside and went to the banker at Sebastian Bank, the very good friend of Dad's. What was her surprise when he informed her that there was indeed a safe deposit box in the vault with a number that her lover kept repeating, rented the box over 20 years ago, and paid for years in advance. What was in there? Of course, it was unknown. What a twist. So Mike knows the number of the safe deposit box, but he doesn't remember it either. That doesn't make any sense. Either he's faking it, or something really happened that made him forget those numbers in his state of anesthesia and stress. They came out of his subconscious. Talking to Mike, the girl put it off for later. The first thing they did was go to his house. The groom's parents were surprised to see them both on the doorstep. Mom read, "Hi, son. We have guests. Why didn't you tell me? I would have cooked something delicious. Come in, Kate. Have a seat." But the boy started right off the bat, no warning. "Mom, Dad, I have a serious and not very pleasant conversation to have with you. I had a session on hypnosis in the psychotherapist yesterday, and I remembered that I had a different father when I was a child. I want to know the truth of who I really am." Mom twitched and dropped the cup from her hands, began to wail and pick up the shards with a broom. Dad sharply said, "Don't talk nonsense, son. What other psychotherapist? What are you, full of henbane? You scared the shit out of your mother. You're our son. That's the end of it. We raised you your whole life. But that's when Kate came into the conversation. Look, William, there's no use denying it. We're not going to accuse you of anything. Just understand that Mike has a right to know who his real parents are. And if you love your son even a little bit, then please tell the truth and everything as it really happened. William slowly walked to the window. He sighed heavily and began the story. Perhaps you are right. It is time to tell it like it is, although there is not much to tell. In the 90s, a businessman and his little son moved in next door to us. They lived in our apartment. His name was Andrew. He had been in commerce all his life, but at first he just did apartments and cars. Bought them out cheap, did repairs, resold them. That's how he got around. But in those troubled times, he quickly rose up and started making millions by setting up a pyramid scheme or something else. I don't know anything about that. The profits were enormous, and the depositors were happy at first. They received good interest. Then, at one point, everything began to fall apart, and he started having serious problems. We never had any contact with him. He just said a few words at the doorway, and that was it. He was blacker than a cloud. One day my wife and I came home from work for dinner and sat down. The doorbell rings, and we open it. There's that neighbor holding his little boy's hand. Comes in quick and says, "Hello, Will. There's something to do here. I'm taking my son in for a while, a month or two at the most. My wife died in childbirth. I'm the only one who raises a bear. And now I'm being attacked like a wolf from all sides. The police are looking for me, and my brothers are hunting me. I feel they'll either kill me or put me in jail. I'm in trouble with this company, and I'm not happy about it. That's why I want to go abroad to wait it out. And how will everything calm down? I'll come back. I'll take my bear. Don't think I'm just keeping it for expenses. I'll send you more every month. My son's quiet. He likes ice cream and apple pie. But don't hurt him. He's my most precious possession. Well, do you agree?" My wife and I looked at each other and agreed. We could really use the money. And the child was a pity. He'd get in a gang fight. He'd get hurt. Andrew also pressed my son goodbye. He whispered something to him for a long time, then waved and quickly ran down the stairs. Before we knew it, Mike, you were after him, ran out of the staircase. Screaming wildly, he fell down. Almost made a mistake. We barely caught up with you. We calmed you down. That's how you came to live with us. And you loved numbers like a madman. And my wife, and I couldn't figure it out. It didn't make any sense. Did you cry a lot? Sad. You missed me, waiting at the window for Daddy. Didn't take any notice of us at first. But a month or 2.5 years went by, and Andrew disappeared without a trace. At first he did send money, but then he vanished into thin air. We were not happy about it. Why did you agree to that? You were supposed to go to school in the fall. How are we going to give you up? You're a stranger to us. And then everything resolved itself. We bought you a second-hand bicycle with the money we sent you. We wanted to please you. You got so excited, started riding, learning, and you fell badly. You hit your head hard to the point of concussion, even lost consciousness. It took you a long time to come to, but we were scared and nursed you back to health. Everyone was asking how you were, son, and you came to your senses. And all of a sudden, he started calling us Daddy and Mommy. And everything that was, apparently, he forgot after the fall and stopped minting those stupid numbers like a wind-up. So we were even glad that you had forgotten them. One day my wife and I decided that we had no children of our own and decided to raise you as our own son. Fate itself decided that for us. My wife had a relative who worked at the passport office, Wendy. She helped us with the documents quietly, and from now on you are ours. We were afraid, of course. It was a dark matter. What if Dad had come back? What then? But as the years went by, did Andrew ever show up alive or not? We don't even know. We gradually got used to you and fell in love with you. We even tried our best to be as good as anyone else. You know, we live poorly, but we can't all be rich. I understand that it was probably impossible. It turns out that someone else's child was appropriated, and even not quite legally. But on the other hand, if we had put you in an orphanage, would you have been better off there? Say that, son. Don't hold it against your mother and me. We meant well. Mike was shocked and in a kind of prostration. He now looked at his parents, whom he had so often resented since childhood, in a different way. When he found out how it was, he was ready to kiss their hands. After all, if it wasn't for them, he would have grown up in an orphanage hungry and not knowing what a family was. And his father, how could he? Why hadn't he come back for him? What had happened to him anyway? Was he alive or had he died long ago? All these thoughts swirled through his head, jumping from one to the other. Mom looked at her son all the time and was silent. Then she asked me if you're angry, if you hate me and Dad. You know, son, I don't regret anything. Maybe I'm not an ideal mother. And it took me a long time to get used to you, to adapt to your character. But still, my life wasn't in vain. I used to run out of work knowing you were hungry during detention. I used to bring you a warm cutlet with pasta and a pie from the kitchen without eating it myself. I took care of you and proudly told my friends that my son was the best in school. We didn't give you much, but we gave you all we could. Mike could not stand it, jumped up from his chair and hugged his mother, perhaps for the first time so tenderly and sincerely, and she both of him cried profusely and couldn't let go of the embrace for a long time. The boy whispered to her, "You're right, Mommy. I was often offended as a child. I was stupid. You don't seem to love me enough. You don't praise me enough. You don't buy me enough. And only now, when I know the truth, I realize that you did a noble thing. You did not leave a stranger's child in an orphanage, but raised him as your own son. Thank you. I bow to you. But I didn't have any expensive toys or fancy clothes. Well, the hell with it. But I lived like any other normal kid in the family. Slept in my own bed, went to regular school, and ate homemade soup. They starved to death within the walls. I am not angry with you. No, rather at my own father. I do not understand why he did not come back for me, did not pick me up. How can you take your son to strangers and leave him there forever? It's sacrilegious." William sighed. "Don't be so hot. Son, I've been angry with Andrew for a long time too. Maybe that's why he didn't look at you the same way. It was hard for us to raise you on our salaries. Every day there's a gang shooting. Maybe he's already dead. Who knows? I think he'd be alive. I'm sure he'd have come after you. Your boy Testo was a hothead. Could have crossed someone. You said yourself back then. Everybody was after him. He loved you a lot. You bet he did. I saw tears in his eyes. He was tearing you from him alive, like cutting an umbilical cord." Mike said a warm goodbye to his parents, and everyone was relieved that there were no more secrets or reticences between them. But Kate, inquisitive by nature, wasn't going to stop there. "Wow, Mike, it's just like in my favorite movie. So you're not a pauper at all, it turns out. The son of a businessman, Andrew. We have to find out where your father is, by all means." The kid sighed. "I guess my dad isn't alive anymore. Why else wouldn't he have checked in with me in all these years? I guess his enemies must have found him after all. And how do you know how many years have passed?" The girl jumped. "How old-fashioned are you, Mike? What are detective agencies for then?" "Because that's what they do. They unravel tangled stories. They're paid a lot of money for that, by the way." The guy got even sadder. "Exactly. Where would I get it? I just got off work, and my paycheck isn't due for another week. And would it be enough to pay for detective services?" Kate reassured him. "Mike, stop thinking about money again. I don't care about the money. I've told you 100 times. It's more important to get to the truth and find out where your dad is. Since I'm the one who started to unravel this tangle, I'll see it through to the end." A month passed. Life went on. Mike still worked as a courier, and Kate tried to run her father's business. But it was getting worse, and the company was barely keeping afloat. The competitors were already rubbing their hands, and everyone was waiting for this snot-nosed girl to give up and sell the empire. Finally, Katia got a call from the detective agency, inviting her and Mike to a meeting. The couple immediately went to the address, and the boy's soul was not calm. What would they tell him now? Whether his father was alive or dead? And if he was alive, was it worth going out with him? What would I tell them? Why did you leave me like a fool after all these decades? An elderly full detective sat our heroes in a chair and began to tell us, sorry for the delay, but we went down the wrong track first. After all, you said that perhaps the father was dead or abroad. And the first thing we did was to work on those two possibilities. And that didn't work out at all. But we did manage to find your father. Andrew is alive, but very ill, in a hospice. And according to the doctors, he doesn't have long to live. It's in the next town, on the outskirts of town, and not everyone's psyche can take it. I'll write you all the coordinates, and then it's up to you to see him or not. I did my job. Mike was all over the place in a split second, and his best doubts disappeared. He looked at Kate expectantly and whispered, I'll go. I want to see Daddy. I won't forgive myself if he dies, and we never meet. The detective said the place was awful. Why don't you stay home? Kate turned her head stubbornly. No, I'll go with you. I won't be intimidated by hardship, and I won't leave you without support either. We're in this together. It's a long drive, so we'll leave first thing in the morning. The boys set off in the car after dark. It was indeed a long drive, and the weather was overcast and rainy. But the lad's soul was somehow sadly languid. As they approached the dull, shabby walls of the hospice, it became clear that this godforsaken institution had clearly not been funded for a long time. But all this was only a blossom. When Kate and Mike went inside, the horrible smell of medicines and unwashed bodies knocked them over from the very threshold. There was sighing and moaning coming from the rooms. Even the walls seemed to be drenched with pain and suffering. An elderly detainee doctor, who knew who they came to see, silently pointed to their room and muttered to them the second bed on the left. And don't give me that look. I am not God. We have one nurse for 50 patients. No one wants to work for pennies in a dump like this. This is not a private boarding house. There are ex-convicts and the elderly who don't care about their loved ones. I'm doing the best I can. I try to get the department to give them more painkillers and diapers, but you know how it is. Mike cautiously opened the doors of the room. Along the walls were 4 beds each. In the spot indicated lay a literally wrinkled skeleton, dried out, and a miserable old man, long unshaven. He stared at one point at the briskly flowing ceiling and wrinkled his nose. The sight was so frightening that Kate couldn't stand it and jumped out into the hallway. Mike, however, got over himself and walked over to the bed. The boy timidly asked Daddy, "Do you recognize me?" "I'm Mike." Mike, determinedly. "Your son." The old man's face suddenly brightened up. He turned his head vividly and even tried to smile. His eyes lit up. "Mike, my son, that can't be true. My God, we've seen each other. How did you find me? Oh, how handsome you are. You've grown my breed with a slant in the shoulders." Tears came to the old man's eyes, and he tried to wipe them away. With a dry, thin hand, Mike immediately recognized his daddy by his voice, by his eyes. Those memories of his childhood ran through his head like a hurricane again. And the boy asked, "What happened to you, and why didn't you pick me up?" "I was waiting for you. You didn't need me. Tell me the truth." Mike almost screamed, unable to contain his emotions. My father lowered his eyes. "I'm very ashamed, son. I have nothing to hide. When I gave you to my neighbor, I thought I'd really go abroad for a couple of months. I made a mess of things when I was doing that daring thing. That's what I paid for. They took me right to the train station and locked me up for 10 years. And then, when I got out of jail, burnt-out convicts, I thought, why do you need me? Sneaked a glimpse of you at the front door with William and his wife, and didn't bother to interfere. Anyway, I chickened out at the last minute. My neighbors, good for them, kept their word. Even though they weren't rich, they were good, honest, non-drinkers. I thought you had forgotten me completely. Then again, I left you a fortune of money. I thought you wouldn't get poor with it. You were completely lost at first. I started drinking, but I realized it in time. My health was failing me. Then I met Cindy. We got together. Some of the old savings were still there. And she had a son, Peter, your age. What a horrible kid. He was nagging me. He didn't consider me a human being. That's how they've been treating me for 3 years, to get all the money out of me. And they set up the accident. They thought I'd crashed to my death, but I managed to jump out of the car. But I broke my bones, and I was left a cripple. Cindy put me in here and left, and I told her, out of spite, that I had an enormous amount of clippings, and they belonged only to my own son, not to you. I thought you must have taken the money long ago. I didn't know anything about it, but that didn't stop her either. She didn't believe me. She dumped me like a piece of junk in a dumpster and disappeared. So you've been cooped up here for 6 months. It's all right. I won't have long to suffer. I can't wait to die. I don't have the strength to lie in a puddle of my own. No one here cares about anyone. My son was crying and shouting. What money, Father? I didn't know anything about your millions, and even if I knew, how could I have taken them at such a young age? And over the years, I've forgotten everything. Do you know how hard our life was? Everybody used to tease me at school about being a pauper. I used to dye my sneakers black with a felt tip pen when they turned from white into something I couldn't understand. And my mother simply couldn't buy me a new one. Andrew was shocked. Wait, how I didn't know. You remembered the name of the bank and the number of the deposit box by heart when you were a kid. You had to wake up at night. Mike was swallowing tears because I fell off my bike and had a bad concussion. So I forgot everything. You too. All my life, I thought my father and mother were my family. I wondered, why don't I look like them? Why do they dislike me? And the other day I was attacked on the street by some thugs. I got shot in the leg and even had to have an operation. I also had a hypnosis session, and I remembered how you made me learn those numbers, and how I was running after you, screaming for you not to leave me. Do you even remember that? That's how I found out that my father wasn't my father. But the fact is, I don't know if you or William is my father. At least he didn't abandon me, or put me in an orphanage, or cut someone else's child out of his life. But he dragged me through life, giving what he could and keeping his mouth shut. How could you do that, Dad? Why? I'm your own son. Would you at least try to find out how I live? What's the matter with me? The elderly man wept silently. His conscience was burning him like a burning iron. He suddenly cried out of his last strength. Yes, son, you are right about everything. I have made 1,000 mistakes and lived an unworthy life, and I repent of it. But what can I change now? That's enough. You saw me. You told me everything. I said I was sorry. Now go away. I don't want you to remember me as such an infirm, helpless invalid. Goodbye, son. And take the money. It's rightfully yours. And don't come here again. I don't want to. Mike didn't know what to say and stormed out of the room. Kate was just coming out of the doctor's office. He shouted angrily, in a frantic voice, "Let's get out of here quickly." Kate looked at him in bewilderment and got behind the wheel. Mike, explain what happened. Did you have a fight with your father? What did you talk about? Wild passions raged inside the guy. He was almost screaming again. I told him everything and asked him why he had left me. I thought he had a good reason. And it turns out he saw me and didn't come up. He was just being a coward. Can you imagine? Then he drank a lot, lived with a woman her stepson, spent money on them. But soon they left him. Poor, miserable. Am I supposed to pity him now and forgive him? And how he lived quietly, ate, slept all these years. He didn't give a damn about me. He thought, you see that I took the goddamn millions a long time ago and didn't eat anything. And just to see his child, to hold him, to raise him. Isn't that all that matters? And at the end, he also said he was remorseful, but that he didn't want me to go to him. He doesn't want me to see him like that. Whatever. Mike expected Kate to understand and support him now, as always, but he was wrong. The bride frowned and suddenly responded sharply and emotionally, "You're wrong, honey, and you're acting exactly like a cranky little child. There are shadows bubbling inside you right now, childish resentments expressed. But you're all grown up now, Mike. And yes, I think you should forgive your father and try to get him out of the clutches of death. Why? Yes, because he's your daddy, no matter how good or bad he is. It's not for you to judge him. You're not God. Yeah, your daddy's done some bad things, and I think he repented a long time ago. And now you're going to leave your own man to die in these awful walls. I spoke to the doctor, and he says there's not much chance, but there is. You could try to put him in a good clinic for a checkup, and he might even be able to walk. It's a bit of a lost time, though. There just hasn't been anyone to take care of him. Lying around with broken bones. Think about it. Will you be able to eat and sleep peacefully now, knowing that he is in pain here, as if he had been given a ringing, sobering slap in the face? He suddenly looked at things in a completely different way. The guy started rubbing his temples and thinking. He really did. But why was he pouncing on his father? After all, he was in enough pain and probably terribly ashamed. He was adding fuel to the fire all the time. It was as if the sun had come to his father to bite him. The boy opened the door of the car, whispering to Kate now. The girl exhaled and folded her arms in the form of a prayer. Gratefully, she looked up and whispered, "Thank God. I think I got it." Mike entered the room again. His father was lying against the wall, sobbing softly. The son's heart couldn't take it. He intuitively ran up to the family man and stroked him timidly on the shoulder. "Forgive me, Daddy was a bit rough. A lot has accumulated over the years, and I love you. And I miss you so much. I'm not going anywhere, and I'll get you out of here. Just live, please. I need you. Listen, I'm gonna run to the drugstore right now. I'll be right back. And then you'll be in my bed. I don't want you to lie in the dirt like that." You're more angry. As much as a father could, hugged his son tightly. Tears were streaming down his unshaven, prickly cheeks, and he whispered, "Thank you, my son, for being you. Thank you, darling. I needed those words from you so badly. I'm so sorry, honey." Mike and Kate bought everything they needed, and the first thing they did was help the powerful man wash him, change his pajamas and bed linens for new crispy ones, and fed him humanly for the first time in a long time. The son shaved his father reverently and carefully, while Kate held the basin of water. There were tears in Andrew's eyes from such touching care. Lubricated with painkillers, expensive ointment, the wounds stopped drinking. He breathed a sigh of relief for the first time since he had been here, until the couple decided to move Andrew to another clinic. Kate paid the head doctor generously and got Mike's father a private room and special care. Now the staff ran around him instead of passing him by as if he were an empty space. A week later, Kate, through influential acquaintances of her late father, found a good professor, and he undertook to operate on the almost hopeless patient. The operation was extremely difficult and dangerous, but luckily all turned out well, and the prognosis was not bad. Mike dropped everything and sat with his father in the hospital around the clock. He literally taught him to move his arms and legs all over again, gave him massages, and taught him to walk step by step. The care, nursing, competent treatment, good nutrition did the trick, and after a couple of months, the man was simply unrecognizable from a decrepit, haggard, bedridden invalid. Andrew was transformed into a captain, into a man with a blush on his cheeks. Kate talked to Mike's father a lot too. It turned out that he was an excellent businessman, since he was able to build up an entire empire. except that at the time, he took a bad risk. But thanks to his individual advice, things improved noticeably in the company of his son's fiancée, and now she often consulted with him before making a deal. When Mike's father finally recovered, Kate took Andrew to her mansion, and now the three of them lived there. The man went to the bank and took the money out of the safe deposit box. From that day on, everyone could live comfortably for many years. Now Kate didn't feel sorry for her friend for getting mixed up with a pauper. They were jealous when they found out that her Mike turned out to be the son of a millionaire. Her father began to teach Mike the basics of business, and soon both men were successfully working at Kate's company. Andrew as a consultant, and Mike as a general manager. And Kate finally breathed freely, because now she didn't have to carry this heavy kept watch over Petya at nightclubs until almost morning. It was daylight when Peter fell out half-drunk and tried to hail a cab, and then two men approached him from two sides, took him under the arms, whispered quietly, and here was Peter's cab. "Let's go with a breeze." Andrew pushed his steps into the car and clicked the door. Peter screamed wildly and tried to get out. "Wow, you made it. Old man, I thought you were lying in the ground. And your son, you're a survivor. You dodged a bullet and got away with it. Let me go. You can't prove anything." "I was wearing a mask." Andrew and Mike stared at the scoundrel in shock. The guy asked, "Why did you attack me in the first place? What did you want with me?" Peter laughed unkindly. "I heard my mother's stepfather shouting that there was a huge amount in the bank. He even said the name of the bank, and I remembered. And then I made inquiries through acquaintances and found out that the box is still rented there. So I decided to kidnap you and torture him to give him the money or bring him to the hospice to blackmail him. I'd say I'd kill him anyway. Would you have told me where the money went? It didn't work out. The bastard turned on me." Andrew couldn't stand it and hit the steps in with all his might. He had his hand out for another punch. But Mike stopped his father. "Don't do that, Dad, not with your hand. We got what we wanted, didn't we? Let him go on his merry way. He'll end up bad enough as it is. I asked him at the club. He's in gambling debt like he's in silk. He's got creditors chasing him around on his heels. Get out of here, smart ass, and calm down. We've already withdrawn the money." Petya was thrown out of the car. He lost his ears, his long jaw out of his stock, and sang, "But wait, will I get to you yet? It won't be enough." 6 months went by. Life went on. Mike and Kate humbly got married. Neither of them wanted to make a big deal out of it. The girl was expecting a child. Andrew was excited about becoming a grandfather. He wanted to give his grandson all the things his son didn't get, to take care of him and babysit his foster parents. They often went to see them. They didn't forget. They raised Mike, no matter how hard it was for them. One day there was a phone call at the mansion. A surprised Andrew opened the door. Standing on the doorstep was Cindy, his former roommate. The woman looked very bad. She was sobbing. "Andrew, grief has happened. Help me, I beg you." Peter broke down. He drove at night with the guys from the crowd. He had 3 surgeries. Doctors say he will be a wheelchair user for life. "What can I do? Give me some money, please. I don't even have any money left for medicine." "That's my son." The man just grinned. "I guess there is a God's judgment after all. You said to give me money. You'd have taken me for a wheelchairman anyway, you say, and it'll be in my name. Isn't that the same condition you sent me to a hospice to die rotting alive? And you have the conscience to come to me and ask. Not only that, your Peter also wanted to kill my son. It's a miracle he didn't." He laughed in my eyes, the bastard, and grieved that I was still alive. And I am alive, Cindy, only thanks to Mike's own son and his wife. They found me, fed me with a spoon, and got me out of the world. Where have you been? No, Cindy, I can't help you. Get out of here in good health. You're lucky I didn't report you to the police, or they'll put your Peter in jail too. The woman left with nothing to eat. She knew Andrew was right about everything. and there was no forgiveness for her and her son. But Kate also surprised everyone. She'd heard all about it from the men at dinner. Andrew was so indignant. He was shouting that Cindy was cold, and she did that to him. And let them suffer now with their unfit. The girl found Cindy and arranged to see her. She thought she would see a bitch of a wife, but in front of her sat her grief-stricken mother. She asked for forgiveness. I only now realize what Peter and I had done, and that it was all a lesson and a punishment. It's true that we were very cruel to Andrew, and he did us so much good. I understand that Andrew will never forgive me. But do you have any idea how hard it is to watch your child suffer? Peter can't be changed. I didn't look hard enough, and I taught him the wrong things. But he's in so much pain. He's screaming, and I don't know how to help. Kate listened and did not interrupt. Then she said quietly, I don't know why I came here and why I'm talking to you. If my husband or father-in-law found out, they wouldn't understand. But I myself will soon become a mother, and I feel sorry for you as a woman. I'll transfer the money into your account. It will be enough to transfer your son to a paid hospice or to buy a good quality wheelchair and the necessary medicine. And then, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. Goodbye. Cindy sobbed and fell to her knees. You are a saint. I will pray for you. Thank you, Kate. Something light came over her heart. She knew for sure she was doing the right thing, though she couldn't even explain it to herself. She had been brought up that way. She couldn't pass by other people's troubles, and it was a credit to her parents for raising such a wonderful and merciful daughter.